In commercial real estate, success starts with the building. The best-run properties are defined by more efficient teams, more satisfied tenants, and more profitable buildings. Enter JLL's Prism by Building Engines, uniquely designed to help you increase performance from a single building to thousands of commercial properties, including core features for best-in-class operations, innovative tools to boost the tenant experience, and unique solutions you won't see from any other property management provider. And the platform's open API infrastructure connects seamlessly with your in-house systems. See why the world's most successful companies have chosen Building Engines. Visit buildingengines.com to schedule a free demo and see the power of Prism today.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of Realcomm Live. So excited to be here. Really enjoy the conversation that we're going to have today. It is going to be with our IBcon chairs. A couple weeks ago, we did Realcomm chairs. And just a reminder, the process that we go through is each year for probably the last 25 years. We choose, in and around 75 advisors for each event, Realcomm on the real estate enterprise side and IBcon on the smart building side. And out of those 75 advisors on each, we choose 3 on each side to act as co-chairs. Originally, we had 1 chair, but it was just too much. We put too much responsibility and asked too much of them. So we decided to kind of share the burden a bit. And for the last probably 7 to 10 years, we've had 3 co-chairs. Same this year for IBcon. And we specifically make an attempt to diversify the conversation. So I'll give you an example. So Hines, who I will introduce in a second, a big international firm, great at innovating, but has the size and scale to deal with. Kilroy, a little bit smaller company, able to work maybe a little bit more agile, but we'll hear from Bayron to see if that is in fact the case. And then, of course, we should not have a conversation with just landlords. We need to get the occupant, the occupier, the tenant into the conversation. And that's where we bring in Walmart, who has its own corporate real estate requirements, as well as leases property literally all over the world. So with that, it is going to be a great conversation. Let's bring in Bayron Lopez, Director, Operational Technology from Kilroy, Ilene Goldfine, SVP, Chief Digital Officer for Hines, and Neil Ross, Senior Director, CRE Tech and Product Management, Corporate Real Estate, that tiny little company called Walmart. How are you all today?
Morning.
Hey.
Good to have you. And just, again, want to say thank you. Hopefully we're not bothering you too much, but we do ask a little bit of our chairs because, we're really looking for help as it comes closer to the conference. Like, what are the topics and, what are the important issues? And you guys have been so gracious with your time, and we've been on a number of calls already. And I think we're getting closer, but I don't think we're there quite yet. Ilene, I think I saw something in my inbox this morning. Haven't looked at it yet, and I'm looking forward to it. So before we get started, I will never do justice to you and or your company. So Ilene, why don't we start with you? A little bit about Hines and your career, how you got to this very important role, and what does your day look like?
Well, thanks, Jim. Thanks for having me. I think I'm off mute right now, and I'm going to apologize in advance because I think there's some white noise that's pumping through our Texas Tower offices here that might be a little distracting. So let's see. I'm going to start backwards by saying, what does my day look like? Right now, I'm trying to keep track of my days by this madness behind me on the whiteboard. My day is never the same. It is, I'll say, some sort of organized chaos on a good day, some sort of madness on a worse day. But so Hines, as you said, Jim, international real estate company. We are in 30 countries. I think the current count's 380 cities or something like that. Every product type, everything known to man. We were joking around, probably every technology out there known to the universe as well. And so my role, my responsibility is overseeing a group called the Global Digital Strategy Office that is all technology, all business process, and all data in order to basically change how we work. So I've been asked to wake up every day thinking about how to do things better. So we really believe that the combination of those three areas, business process and technology and data, actually drive value and drive the firm forward. So with that, our group oversees all corporate type technology. So, enterprise wide, we oversee all sorts of technologies from an operational building perspective, also from our developments, and in addition, all of our investment management, tools, technologies, data. So that's our.
So in addition to the technology and the speed of change within the technology sector, 300 countries, different languages, different cultures, different product types, different financial requirements.
So back to that, my day, actually, I don't know that there's a start and an end to it. And I think it's just a continuous thing.
It goes round in circles. Yep. Bayron, how about you?
Kilroy is a real estate investment trust, right? We prioritize ourselves on 5 strategic regions: Seattle to San Francisco, Los Angeles, San Diego, and Austin, and Class A commercial real estate, right? So we are a developer, operator. We maintain, support all of our buildings. So in my job, I help oversee our operational technology. So the building systems, I like to say, from irrigation to the cloud, right? Everything in between, all the technology that operates, maintains, and supports the building assets, and working with our various teams from legal to construction to operations, and ensuring that we keep innovation. We like to say that we're where innovation works, and that is done through technology specifically for the building. So my job is to make sure that we are putting best-in-class technology, that we're putting a standard around it, and making sure that it's also secure and protected for the future, and how those buildings are going to operate best class for our tenants.
So is it safe to say that because of your size and structure that maybe your day is a little more streamlined than Ilene's because of the little more, I don't want to oversimplify, but maybe a little more simplified process to get your ideas through the organization?
A bit more, but because we're smaller, there's also a specific target that you can go to, right? So everybody knows that, from 5 a.m. till 10 p.m., they can call me or call my team for technology. So it's a little bit more strategic. We are smaller, but we also have 120 buildings within those regions. So it's a lot of complexity, a lot of building engineers, construction teams, projects moving all over the place. So it's hectic. It's not having, 380 cities, but it's definitely a lot of challenges in technology and movement, right? And there's a lot of questions and ideas, and why are we changing the process? When you've been at a firm like Kilroy, who's been successful for decades, there's a standard and a culture that's set. So we're moving that culture together. So it's helpful that way, but it also makes some challenges as we need to make those cultural shifts to say, why do we need to move forward with technology systems and buildings? Why do we need to renovate, develop, and look at our strategy as a whole?
We haven't even gotten into the technology conversation yet, and I think the audience is understanding how complex your worlds are, that it's just not about finding a good solution and slapping it on the building. I mean, there's a lot that goes into it. Neil, how about you? You're on the other side. You're the occupier.
Right.
You've got corporate campus, and God bless you, got a big corporate campus with Walmart, and I know you got some stuff going on. But I mean, what is your background, and then lead us right up to what your day looks like.
Yeah, sure, Jim. I've been here at Walmart for a couple of years, and I'm responsible for the corporate workplace product and technology across the entire corporate portfolio. I have a background in software, hardware, technology roles. Spent several years as a chief technology officer in a large enterprise. Spent 9 years at Microsoft advising customers on how to adopt and manage technology within their enterprise, and then 3 years at Schneider Electric as I started to focus that last few years at Microsoft and then at Schneider on advising organizations around digital building technologies, solutions. I spent a lot of time on IoT, digital twins, and really kind of smart buildings software strategy. Here at Walmart, my team drives all of the strategy around smart buildings and smart campus products and tech, and that's across about 10 million square feet of corporate office space. And as you alluded to, we are building a new corporate campus here in Bentonville. It's going to be incredible. We've got a lot of information out on the internet on that, and really kind of our days are tied into the construction patterns, the validation of systems and different sites, and really kind of the developing the strategy on how we're going to improve the workplace experience for all of our associates in all Walmart offices.
Now, last year, Cindy Margolis spoke in our general session about that project. And for her to get on an airplane and come to our event showed true commitment. I mean, is that the level of commitment you've got from senior leadership on this topic?
I was at an event today, and members of the Walton family and the leadership council were there to open one of the buildings on the campus. It's a huge investment for the company. It's all about creating a great workplace for our associates, for our partners and our vendors to come in and work with us. And it's really about advancing not only the corporate strategy of Walmart, but also integrating into a great community here in Bentonville.
So it's going to be big, it's going to be bold, and it's going to be innovative. That's pretty impressive.
350 acres of new space.
Well, and given the size of the project and the relationship with Bentonville, pretty safe to say you guys could be moving towards the concept of a smart city, right? I mean,
Yeah. I mean, you could say that. We've talked about it in those terms before.
yeah, it's big. All right. So shifting gears a little bit, when we asked you to do this, all three of you responded pretty quickly, and for that we say thank you. Ilene, I mean, with your busy day on that board behind you, why would you take on this role to help us, lead the advisors in the conference this year on these topics?
Well, first, I'd say if anybody knows me, they know that I charge every hill. So there's the first answer. I probably should be smarter about what hills to charge, but I'm not. I'm passionate about the fact that we have to do better by our clients. Our clients being our occupiers of our buildings and all that. And the only way that happens is if we open up the channels of everything that's going on in the buildings. Okay. And so I've been pretty vocal about this, about that we have to get to the lowest level in the buildings, make serious change about what's going on in there to open up the channels there to give the best experience possible to our clients. I think I've actually used the word we've been held hostage before. And so to me, this is just a time and a place to be able to get up, help the industry can move forward and really make change for our clients. I also look at it from an investor perspective and how data needs to flow to our investors and ensure that we're giving the best returns to our investors and things like that. And it's all tied together. And so that's why it was honestly a no-brainer for me. I'd also say so it's a little bit of trying to show the world that you don't necessarily need to have any sort of technical background to actually get up here and try to make change. And I'm not saying that in a dismissive way. I'm just saying that you can make change in a lot of different ways in a lot of different areas if you just really are working through it.
Well, the thing that I love about your perspective is you drive it from business first, and frankly, that's a message we've been trying to get out for a long time. It has to be business first and technology second. And technology is the tool. Business is the driver. So
I'm excited. So thank you for asking.
So great to have you on board. Bayron, how about you?
I think for me, it was about bringing the conversations for the forefront, right? The conversations that we've been having in the back rooms and in the different events, and making sure that we're connecting the landlords, the tenants, the operators, the SIs, all the different people involved in the smart building strategy and the technology strategy, and making us have those conversations. Sometimes it's difficult, right? Because there's a lot of people are tribal. The security guys want to stay there, physical, building guys here. We want to bring them together. That's always been my strategy. The community rises together. And also just remembering, the way I was brought in, right? I remember my first real comp session, Charles Myers saw me outside the CIO roundtable. I was just sitting there and he's like, you need to be in here. And he pulled me in. He got Cherry to let me in. And I've been involved ever since. So I think it was a wonderful opportunity. I've always said, if you guys need any help and I can share my comments and my thoughts and my crazy ideas with people and somebody listens, it's always helpful. So I appreciate the opportunity.
We've had conversation in hallways. You've sent me emails. You're constantly thinking. You're constantly prodding. You're charging every hill. I see some familiar traits. But most of all, I just think it's amazing with your busy schedules that you find the time to give back to an industry which, if you've been in business a while, you know that we can't do it alone, and we really are stronger together. So
for sure.
Neil, how about you?
Well, I think, having worked across technology solutions, hardware and consulting in this whole space that I've worked in, and now to be, responsible for implementing and integrating all of these solutions together to create value for a company, across a really dispersed portfolio of old buildings and brand new things. I feel like contributing to the conversation now gives me an opportunity to help peers address challenges that maybe I've already experienced and addressed, or things that I'm going through today, so that not only can I help, but I can also learn.
Yeah, I remember when I was coming up in tech, we were always taught not to share our failures because failures meant that you weren't successful. And I used to sell law firm legal systems long ago, and I made some mistakes, right? And I just came to the conclusion that as fast as tech moves, if we are willing to admit not just our successes, but humbly our mistakes as well, the next guy can avoid it.
Yeah.
And if
Yeah,
we
there's some credibility in being able to talk about the scars that you've
Mm-hmm.
taken along the way.
scars are more important to me in a lot of respects, more important than the successes. Because again, you make a $2 million mistake in your organization, maybe you won't have a job next year. We can't afford to lose good people, right? And so we have to kind of band around each other and make sure we got each other's covered. So, all right, before we take a break, I want to ask you a quick question, and then we're going to come back and dive into it a little deeper. So we've been on 3-4 calls now in the last 3 months. We have great conversations. Everybody's priorities are changing, shifting a little bit, kind of the same, but a little different. Ilene, before we take a break, are we getting closer to knowing what we're going to talk about at Realcomm and IBcon?
I think that we are. I don't know. I keep sending you slides and decks, so I think we are. Hopefully.
Well, we're just leaving room for some last minute changes. Bayron, how about you? Are we honing in on the big topics?
Yeah, I think we're getting there. I think it's the conversations that we're having, not just within the IB chairs, but also the chairs in general for Realcomm. I think we're getting a very solid product, and I'm excited to see what's going to happen in Tampa.
Yep. Neil?
Yeah, I think we've spent a lot of time talking about current issues and sharing our experiences and challenges, but it's also exposing some things that I think are more emerging topics that may not be at the top of the list for this year, but we're going to see come onto the agenda in coming years.
Yeah, well, and a lot of the reason we spend the time we do, especially with our co-chairs, is because I've been to a lot of conferences in my life, and I just at one point got tired with the idea of your keynote speaker running in 5 minutes before, pulling the presentation from the last meeting, changing a couple names. I've been in some of them where they didn't even know where they were. And I said, I respect the audience too much. They have too much problems that they really need to solve. And it's incumbent upon us to take the time to be thoughtful on what we present on that stage. And so each of you have done a great job helping to facilitate that. And I really appreciate that. So let's take a brief break. And when we come back, we're going to we're not going to give away all the secrets. We're going to talk a little bit about some of the topics that are rising to the top that you can expect to see on the general session stage at Realcomm and IBcon in Tampa this June. I'll be right back.
To make a difference. That's our calling at Michael Baker International. Our work is more than a highway overpass, an airport runway, or a bridge. It's more than a transit station or a water treatment plant. Our work connects people and drives our communities forward. Our work turns ideas into reality and transforms how we live. It all began as a spark, an idea. There's a better world out there and we will create it. Today, we are the designers, the planners, the engineers, the architects, and the innovators. Bold enough to dream the impossible, dedicated to making a difference. Stronger together. We've built a legacy of excellence that's brought us to the forefront of our industry. And we're not stopping there. We are problem solvers, working globally to create a safer, more accessible, more sustainable tomorrow. We make a difference for our clients, our communities, and one another.
All right, let's bring our guest back and continue this great conversation. All right, so before we tease a little bit about what we're going to be talking about, all this work, a lot of it involves the concept of prioritization. You have to prioritize in your companies because I'm sure you could do 1 million projects, but you only have budget for 1,000. So just give us, Ilene, a snippet of your perspective on, and you can do it in relation to how you work within Hines. How do you prioritize all these different things people want, say they need, and then we'll apply that to how we collectively do it for an industry?
So back to what I mentioned, we have a group that works on what I call them business lines, not business lines, but it's inherently an easy term for everybody to work through. Our investment management platform, I'm going to say our development operations platform, and then our corporate platform. And so the first thing that we do is we align our priorities with the strategic firm priorities, right? Where are we going? What are we doing? And everything like that as a firm. And so that's the first. Then after that, we start looking at those priorities and say, okay, what are the actual outcomes that we're driving, to drive for, with those priorities. And honestly, I think we are all of the mindset, and I think you're going to hear this, more and more, that the outcomes, are all around, again, the clients right now. Okay, it should have been that way, always, but it's a heightened, awareness to this and everything like that, especially coming out of COVID, especially with what's happening in the financial markets and everything like that, related to office and commercial. And so we are aligned on what are you doing best for your clients, right? And all that. That then drives everything else, right? That drives then the investments, that drives the returns, that drives, how our people are working, right? How do we work to get to those achievements and things like that. So really that is our priority. That is how do you execute on ensuring the best possible outcomes for our clients. And then after that, the prioritization just naturally occurs, right? There's a lot there. There's a lot to do. But
if a new employee comes to you with a crazy innovative idea, is there a vehicle of which to get that idea funneled into the system?
Yes. So we actually have, a lot of people coming to us with a lot of ideas and a lot of crazy things. Not crazy, all good. Yeah. And, and we log them all. And then I report directly up to one of our executive committee subcommittees. So we have a governing board that's pretty big. And then we split them into subcommittees. And that subcommittee, so I report to on a regular basis, probably monthly, if not more. And we bring things to them and say, these are the things that are coming up, that rise to a significant level. It doesn't need to be kind of all the small things, but is this something that we want to take on from a firm perspective that aligns with our firm strategic priorities? So it's always about those priorities and ensuring that we are moving forward, in that way. Or if something's come up, even that somebody hasn't brought to us, but we've addressed and we've brought up, we'll do the same thing and say, we think that we should address this, or we're going to table this for now, unless somebody thinks otherwise.
Neil, any color you want to add to that process?
No, I think it's very similar. Within a big enterprise like this, there's always, going to be corporate commitments and priorities, and we're trying to look at objectives and timelines, especially with the kind of projects that we have going on right now. But the process is anchored in those detailed kind of investigations with business stakeholders, having a clear understanding of priorities and targets and those types of things. And then taking the priority list and ordering it, across the segments of the business. I think it's common across every organization.
Yep. Bayron, I see you nodding your head. I'm assuming you agree.
Yeah, no, I think I like to call it our innovation council, right? We innovate technology as a group. Our head of engineering, head of physical security, sustainability, asset management, legal, get together and figure out what the priorities are for our technology. Where do we need to go? Where do we find common ground and synergies, right? Because engineering and security might need a specific goal that they might be approaching differently. But at the end of the day, there might be technology that we can leverage together. So it makes it easier for us to deploy. And it also allows us to look at solutions from a direction that we want to grow, right? So if engineering knows they have directed from asset management to get this specific goal done, we can then go out, look at the technology, vet the solution with the goals that they need in place. And our asset management team will bring, information to us, or parking solutions, or we saw this vendor, they claim to do this. Can you vet them? Because if they can, let's take a look at them. So working with our innovation council has been really helpful to get that moving forward.
Well, and hearing you speak, it's kind of music to my ears, because even as little as 5 years ago, integrating business IT and operations / facilities, those people just didn't talk. They were But now more and more, I'm hearing everybody saying that's part of a team. It's part of a committee.
Yeah.
And I do think that we've crossed that hurdle. I think that organizational integration has happened or is happening. And I think we might be able to put that one in the rearview mirror, which is
There's better alignment, Jim. I think we've
Right.
all learned that the alignment from lease to technology has to be there, right? As Ilene said, we have to meet the challenges and needs of our tenants. So if we do it dispersely, then we're not going to get there. If we do it as a village, we're going to be able to knock
I
it
still
out the
think we
park.
need to
So,
work on construction a little bit.
our construction team has actually been very, very good. I give them a lot of kudos. They do great buildings, and they also know technology now, right? And even our
That's good.
GCs, it's trickled down to our GCs where they'll start the technology conversation because they know that I'm not going to sign off on something if it doesn't have that technology stack or that design. So it's
I just made me think of a dear friend who had to fly to the West Coast to convince his construction team to put the integrated network back into the design.
Those are not conversations that those things still are discussed.
Still happening.
So
We got to get more construction people.
well, and a lot of that's, I mean, again, a lot of that's, budget constraints. A lot of that's, things that are happening on the ground. I mean, the markets themselves have put so much pressure on this ecosystem, pressure about the prioritization, pressure about what's going into the buildings, pressure, all these sorts of things that it becomes, this really fine dance that we all have to work.
Yeah. When the day comes when, integrated network, smart building technology architectures are as commonplace as elevators that do not need a return on investment argument.
Talked about that, right?
Yeah. That's what I call it the fifth utility, sixth utility, whatever. To me, it's always been something that could solve a lot of problems, but it's taken quite a long time to get that point across. So, all right, before we go, we're not going to go deep in, but I'm going to let each of you choose one topic based on all of our conversations, one topic that might make the general session stage. Bayron, we'll start with you.
I think the motion of buildings, and I've mentioned this a couple of times, right? Buildings keep moving. It used to be that you would install the system in a building and leave it there for decades. That doesn't happen anymore, right? Even the digital components of your PMs, right? Your preventive maintenance is now digital. You got to put that in there. So the motions of buildings as a whole, I think it's something that you guys are going to see, at least from my perspective.
Awesome. Ilene, how about you?
Well, I'll talk about the ROI. There's got to be a lot more discussions about ROI. And if you don't have to give me an ROI on the lobby renovation, why are you giving me an ROI? Why do I have to have an ROI about putting the smart building in? I think that we can do it. I absolutely think we can do it. And I think that's a discussion for us all to have. But it's just an interesting, back to what you said, Jim, about people are used to, we were talking about the concreteness, right, of a physical building and all that. And how do you change that mentality kind of about the digital portion?
Yeah. Well, you can look at the automobile industry going from the internal combustion and all the moving pieces to this revolutionary new idea of an electric vehicle with less moving pieces and just a whole shift in thinking. Big changes take time, but boy, it's time for us. Neil, final thought. What's the one topic you think is going to make its way to our general session stage?
Wow, there are a lot of topics that we've talked about over the last couple of months, and with peers, I talk about sensors and digital twins and AI and all those things that are exciting. But for me, I really kind of center around the idea of data and insights and how do we create value for an organization. It ties back to what we said earlier about business before technology. The technology and the outcomes that are derived from it really have to drive back to, core value for the business. And if the business is looking to optimize costs, or if the business is looking to improve experience, where you spend your time trying to pull data from the environment to turn that into value, I think that's one of the important things for us to talk about.
Well, and as you were all talking, I'm thinking, what can we do when you make your bold, big statements, and then how do we relate it to a Monday morning action item or two, right? In other words, the ROI statement, Ilene, what is whose door do you knock on Monday morning and start having a conversation with? What analysis do you put on somebody's desk to make the point you made? So maybe in our next call or two, as we're refining how we're going to present all this, maybe we have an action item associated with each of these topics. Well, thank you so much. Your time is so valuable. Hopefully we've used it efficiently, and the people that watch this will get a sense of what we're planning in a month and a half here. And the final thought is, and I know I mentioned this before, we may do a final outreach to all of our advisors to make an outreach to their senior leadership to get a couple people to the conference. I know a lot of you guys do bring other senior executives, but the folks that maybe didn't come or don't usually come, because until we get those business folks understanding that we're about business and improvement, I think a couple of them in the room might make some journeys a little easier. So,
Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much. Have a great Friday and a great weekend, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you.
Jim.
Thanks for having us.
Thank
Yeah.
you. All right. So before we move on, we've got an individual here who's taking place for Mr. Berger for the news. Howard's in New York. There's Nance. How are you?
Good morning or afternoon.
Afternoon.
Just fine. How are you? Great session.
Yeah, I mean, we've had a lot of conversations, and so we're kind of coming around the third turn and heading towards home, but it takes a while, to figure out what you're going to say that's important on that stage,
Mm-hmm.
So let me get out of your way. You can do the news, and I'll be back when you wrap.
All right. Sounds good. Well, here's a quick recap of a few of the articles from our weekly news brief, which is published every Thursday morning. And if you aren't receiving a website to read the latest issue. Our first article this week is some really hot industry news. Newly announced, Yardi Systems is set to become the majority owner of WeWork as part of the latter's bankruptcy exit plan. WeWork senior leaders have agreed to inject $50 million to sustain operations until the expected emergence from bankruptcy on May 31st, followed by an additional $400 million for restructuring costs. Yardi will hold a 60% stake in the reorganized WeWork by contributing $337 million, facilitated through its Cupper Grimald affiliate. This move aligns with Yardi's existing role as a technology provider for WeWork. The restructuring also involves SoftBank, WeWork's major lender pre-bankruptcy, potentially owning around 16.5 equity post-restructuring. WeWork has resolved disputes with landlords, setting aside $8.5 million for creditor settlements. Ex-co-founder Adam Neumann also bid to regain control, but was dismissed, with the court pushing forward WeWork's plan with Yardi. Newman's proposal was deemed insufficient in addressing the significant debt that SoftBank, Yardi, and others agreed to eliminate. The final decision on the bankruptcy exit plan is scheduled for a confirmation hearing on May 30th, with WeWork potentially emerging the following day at a reduced scale. WeWork is projecting profitability in the coming year, which would be the very first time ever, aiming for 337 global locations, including 178 across the US and Canada post-restructuring. Our next article is an interesting read about PoE lighting. Mouser, a leading distributor of electronic components under Berkshire Hathaway, is expanding its operations to accommodate the booming global electronics industry. The company is celebrating its 60 years with a massive expansion of its Dallas-Fort Worth distribution center. While a large part of the expansion will center around their distribution center, they are prioritizing sustainability by featuring a connected Power over Ethernet, or PoE, lighting system. The system, utilizing a single Ethernet cable for power and network communications to each lighting fixture, reduces energy consumption and operational costs while improving lighting control. PoE technology offers advantages like faster return on investment, better efficiency control, maintenance, and flexibility compared to traditional lighting systems. The integrated occupancy, motion, and daylight sensors, centralized control, and fault-managed power distribution system further enhance energy efficiency, reduce material usage, and lower operational costs, all this contributing to a more sustainable and financially responsible approach for the company. And lastly, a consortium of companies in Japan have achieved a groundbreaking milestone in wireless communication by developing the world's first high-speed 6G wireless device. This device is capable of transmitting data at an astonishing speed of 100 gigabits per second over distances exceeding 300 feet. surpassing 5G speeds by up to 20 times. These speeds are equivalent to transferring 5 HD movies wirelessly every second and are approximately 500 times faster than T-Mobile's average 5G in the US. The success of this test represents a significant leap in wireless technology, showcasing the potential for 5G to revolutionize communications with its higher frequency bands. And that is a few of the highlights for this week. You can read all of these stories and others on our website.
I'll tell you, as I was just sitting there watching you talk about these stories, I had like an epiphany. It's like, wow. So a 30-plus-year-old company, a major pillar of our industry, making another big move. Okay. Yardi, over its lifetime, just continues to move the ball forward for our industry. The second one, Mauser Warehouse, massive change in physics, introducing the concept of low voltage into a big building at a scalable way. This genie is about ready to jump the bottle. And finally, 6G, 7G, I don't even care what you call it. These buildings, if your phone's devices work outside, and then you walk inside, and because of concrete or glass or steel, and the fact that you haven't invested means that your people can't work or live as effectively inside as they can out, doesn't work. So whether or not we realize it this week, these are three very big stories. The flexible hybrid workplace, low voltage as a new electrical source for buildings to meet sustainability goals, and a new telecommunications paradigm that nobody even has a clue what it means. So,
yep. Lots going on.
Great job. Thank you so much. And we will see you next week.
All right. Have a great weekend.
Be well. All right. So before we wrap, let's hear from our final sponsor, and I'll come back and give you a little clue on what we're talking about next week. All right. So next week, we're going back to one of our favorite topics, and I'm really surprised none of the chairs talked about it as far as a topic that was going to make the general session stage, and that's artificial intelligence. We have been working tirelessly behind the scenes, lifting up every single rock that we can find to find relevant conversations about artificial intelligence for the built environment. To that point, there's a group of us getting on airplanes next week to attend the AI Expo in Washington, D.C., put on by the Special Competitive Studies Project. They are expecting 8,000 people at this event. The vendors that are going to be there are all the ones you would expect: NVIDIA, Google, Meta, Microsoft, as well as a host of new startup companies with amazing technology that, frankly, maybe not a lot of people have ever seen. So next Friday, we're going to be bringing Joseph Martino, one of our advisors, VP of IT from Primaris. He will be with me and the team. We're dissecting the agenda. We're dissecting the exhibit floor. And by next Friday, we're going to come back and tell you our impression of what the heck is going on with artificial intelligence in the built environment. With that, everybody have a great day, great weekend. It's been fun. We'll see you next week on Realcomm Live. Be well.